right, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Hi, I'm Anne Marie Miller. I'm the Vice President of Development here for the museum. Welcome to the Oberhelman Gallery and this wonderful event where we're here to celebrate Ron Bonati, thanks to his family. And I'm here to just say thank you for all your support. Most everyone here is a member, a Visionary Society member of the museum. So thank you for making both this gallery and everything we have at the museum possible for our community. And so I'm here to introduce John, even though he needs no introduction. Please welcome our President and CEO, Mr. John Morris.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie. Great. Welcome, everyone, to this beautiful new Doug and Diane Oberhelman Gallery. It's amazing to have think back 8 years ago when that yellow train came rolling in on October 20th to dedicate this new museum. This is the first time there's been a change, a major change it is, in this gallery. So we're happy to have the Oberhelmans with us tonight. Thanks, Diane and Doug, for being here. There's a little more room over here if anybody wants to step in or come back around. We got plenty of room, so come on in a little closer because we're all family. We're the Peoria Riverfront Museum family. On behalf of our board of directors and our staff here, this is very exciting for us for a number of reasons. We haven't had many events in 8 months. So what a pleasure it is to be back with supporters in this special place, which has been remade into the home for the Center for American Decoys, a new national effort that is being led by our curator of art and the Center for American Decoys, Zach Zetterberg, who's here with us tonight. We'll hear from later, and all of us on staff, including our chief curator, Bill Conger. And we give a shout out to Bill tonight, who some of you know suffered a heart attack 2 weeks ago and is recovering, thank God. Bill, so excited about today. Zach and I were surprised because he showed up earlier today to inspect and make sure everything was shipshape. And so we're looking forward to Bill returning. We're joined tonight by so many of members of our Visionary Society and supporters, as well as a representative from our board, Todd Baker, our vice chairman of our board. And I want to give a shout out to a few folks before we get to the core reason we're all here. First of all, I see Will Williams, and Will Williams took the lead on the fundraising and the efforts to get off the ground the American Decoy exhibition a year and a half ago, which is now hailed as the greatest single decoy exhibition in the history of museums. And I want to give a shout out to all of you who supported, and Will for really getting us started on that. We are joined by Sally Snyder, who leads our Every Student initiative and is on our President's Advisory Council here, founding member of the board. The children, when we have been able to have them in, and we will again, but the children react so positively to this, to the incredible creativity of these duck decoys. It's amazing. Our Every Student initiative, this is one of the favorite things of our young people who come through. We're joined tonight by the man who really helped Zach and Will Williams, who raised the money, connect with the world of the decoy, the most important decoy collectors all over the country, and that's Randy Root. And Randy is here with us tonight, and Randy serves as our chief advisor for everything we do in the decoy world. Randy and Nancy Root. Nancy, thanks for being here. I have one other big special mention. We are in this space surrounded by the greatest private collection of Illinois River Valley decoys in existence. We don't like to talk about monetary values, we talk about cultural values, but let me assure you that what we have here would be unattainable at this point by the resources of the Peoria Riverfront Museum, but it is in most of it in private hands, and it is on loan to us from Tom Figge. Tom Figge is with us tonight, and thank you, Tom, for everything you're doing with us. So I'll second that motion, Doug. It's really incredible to be attracting regional and national attention for the work we're doing in our folk art collections. Right in this other space, and many of you have been through it, in this next gallery, the extension, the other 2/3 of the Oberhelman Gallery, is our own folk art collection, which has been in storage for too many years. Much of it came from the late Merle Glick and others who helped us acquire some of the great works of folk culture, self-taught culture from Illinois. And we just completed today the installation of this additional part. So tonight's ceremony really doubles as a sneak peek for Christine and all of you. Now, to the reason we're all here. Christine Bonati Bullwinkle has seen the energy that is going into this Center for American Decoys, and recollecting her late husband, Ron Bonati, who was an incredible force of nature, who brought together his work at Caterpillar as vice president. We lost him at age 60, 1999. He was a member of the Rice Pond Duck Club, which is the Oberhelman's club now. We're going to hear about that in a few minutes. But we are joined tonight by her son and daughter-in-law, celebrating their second anniversary next month, right straight in from Brooklyn. So Josh, welcome home, and have a welcome to you both. So tonight is in many ways, with Christine's generosity, a chance to celebrate a new milestone. We are on the move to make the Center for American Decoys into a truly national force. Yesterday I had a call with the director of the Ward Museum. And the Ward Museum is in Maryland. It's regarded as one of the top 2 decoy collecting institutions in the world, the other is Shelburne. She said to me, "What in the world is going on in Peoria? You're coming out with publications, you have a documentary, we're reading about the exhibition. Zach has made diplomatic contact, and the Ward is going to be working with us, and the Shelburne already is." So for all of you who may not care at all about decoys, may not know anything about decoys, know this. Know what Christine knows. This is something really special that is ours. The greatest decoys were carved and made up and down this Illinois River Valley. And who better than the Peoria Riverfront Museum to take on the charge of the Center for American Decoys? So what I would like to do now is introduce a message from our board of directors, who is deeply grateful for what all of you are doing, and especially Christine, what you have done tonight. Our vice chairman of our board, Todd Baker.
Thank you, John. All of you that know John know that no one wants to come up here after John spoke, because it's very hard. So I'll be brief, but I'm going to start with a quick little story. So I met John when he was 7 days old. A long story. I knew his mother. She was my first and second grade teacher. And the one thing I'll tell you about John is he had a suit on, he looked really crisp, and he had his hand in my pocket. And so I always love telling that story because it's fun to tell it on John. The timing is great. Tomorrow morning is the opening of duck season. So I'm glad you're here, Doug, because, I imagine you're going to get some sleep. I threatened John to come dressed in full camo and bring a gun, and he said, we'll find somebody else to speak. So I thought maybe that was my way out. But on behalf of the board of directors of the Peoria Riverfront Museum, Christine and Josh, we very much appreciate your gift. It's very generous of you. It puts us on the map. We're on the map, and it puts us better on the map. When we hear of museums such as the Shelburne calling us, talking to us about what we're doing here in the heart of the flyway right here, it's an honor for us to be able to be trusted with your generosity so that we can keep this going forward. So on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Museum, we thank you very much.
Thank you, Travis. I want to give a shout out to Doug Stewart, who's here. I didn't mention him earlier, but he's worth mentioning for many reasons. Doug is a new trustee on the Peoria Riverfront Museum Foundation, which manages our endowment. And a portion of what we're doing here is creating an endowment which will generate interest for years to come, so we see it as a permanent facet of what we're doing. And our endowment stands at about $11 million. March was not at $11 million. Now it's back up, but thanks, Doug, for being here. Now let's hear from Zach Zetterberg, our curator of art and the Center for American People.
Thanks, John. Well, let me remove this. I'm really grateful to be here tonight in this newly renovated Oberhelman gallery. Thank you, Christine and Joshua, for bringing us all here together to honor Ron. And that's really what it's about tonight. And I'm especially proud to hold my position here as the curator of the Center for American Decoys and to work with the incredible team that makes all of this happen. I believe we're off to a pretty good start. Exhibiting decoys at the museum is not a new thing. Our predecessor, Lakeview Museum, exhibited decoys. Here at the Peoria Riverfront Museum, though, we are starting the Center for American Decoys, which will be the only one of its kind. The Center for American Decoys will serve as a permanent gallery space in this gallery all the time. Decoys will be present all the time. We will continue to tell the stories of the carvers who helped to make this region one of the greatest centers for decoy production in history. Our first exhibition, Masterworks of the Illinois River, showcases more than 50 of the finest examples of Illinois River decoys that ever were produced in this valley. This exhibition and the Center for American Decoys would not be possible, and this may be a little redundant, but would not be possible without Randy Root and Tom Figge. You've been integral to our success here, and thank you so much for working with me and taking the time so that we can preserve what has happened here. I would also like to thank Doug and Diane for your initial investment into developing the space that we're currently standing in. And I would also like to thank Will Williams and everybody at David Vaughn Investments, because you got the party started with American Decoy, and it's done nothing but great things since. And I would also like to thank everybody at Ducks Unlimited, our friend Terry Fox and James Roberts. Thank you for supporting the mission of the Center for American Decoys. And last but not least, tonight, Christine and Joshua, thank you for your support as we move forward. And Ron's passion for waterfowl will forever be remembered here in this space, in the Center for American Decoys. Thank you.
Many of you who remember and knew Ron and loved him know that he started off as a Chillicothe boy, married to a Chillicothe girl, working at a duck club, one of the greats, Rice Pond. And Ron was a pusher, helped get all the hunters out there. As Ron moved up the ranks at Caterpillar, he became a vice president, North American Commercial Division. And here to talk about Rice Pond and a relationship that goes back a long way with Ron Bonati is Doug Oberhelman. Doug.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you all for attending, and especially to the Bonati family. All three of you, and Heather, welcome to Peoria and to the club now that you're in. I'm going to talk a couple different stories, but I came back from Tokyo in 1994. I had hunted ducks a little bit before I left for Japan in the late 80s. And I came back, Ron was vice president, in fact was my boss's boss at the time, and said, hey Doug, would you like to go duck hunting? So one thing led to another. I became a member of the Rice Pond, and Ron was kind of my patriarch. And during that period of time, I remember the story was that Ron had been a pusher there forever. A pusher is a guide. Pushes a long boat with a pole. That was where the pusher name came from. And we still call them pushers to this afternoon when I talked to a couple of them. So Lyle Finch, who owned the club at the time, said, Ron, he said, I think it's probably time for you to stop being tipped as a pusher and start paying dues as a member. When he was the vice president at Caterpillar, it's a great story and one we all cherish. Of course, it was a lot of fun. But Ron was, I'm going to tell a Caterpillar story first, one of my favorite. He had two things he always did. One was he'd give a passionate leadership speech and he'd get down on his knees in front of our management team in our group and talk about Joshua's hockey team and hockey night and how our team was like a hockey club and a hockey team. And you want to get your stick when you're done and go, because he was that way. And the best specific story, I remember we were out in Tucson, and this would have been, 96, 95, somewhere. Tucson demonstration area and proving grounds was relatively new, and the building we were in was brand new. And they had an audiovisual system at that time that was pretty antiquated. So he came out that morning, he was the lead presenter on something or other, and there was a wall-sized screen the size of this wall. And they gave him a pointer this long. There were no laser pointers at that time, it was a little short pointer. And you could just see it was just eating him alive to do that. So we took a break, we came back, and he had gone out into the desert, broke off a long piece of stick of some kind, trimmed it off, and held it with both hands. And as he was, and we were just howling about that. But that was Ron, very practical, and I can go on and on. I won't, but he was really, for me, something. And my first duck hunt up there, my first duck hunt with my dog, the first retriever I ever had, little female Sadie, who Diane's brother-in-law said, if you really want to make an impression with Diane and her kids, get him a puppy. So I found this little puppy, and I take it to the duck club, and I didn't have time to train it. We just did tennis balls in the lawn and so on, back and forth. And it's teal season. So we walk out there, and there's Ron, and there's me, and another guy, Bruce Alkire. And we shoot this first teal. And my dog's this big, and Bruce called her the mini dog, which, you got to be kidding me. It's my pride and joy. It's my mini dog. But anyway, so we shoot the teal, out it goes. The mini dog goes out. It's muddy. Looks back at Ron and me and Bruce. And I'm thinking, pick up that duck, pick up that duck, pick up that duck. She picked up that duck. I thought, okay, now bring it to me. And she brought it right to me. And I had tears in my eyes. So I called Diane on the phone, and I said, we got a dog here. So it was quite a day. But Ron, after that, he said, we're not calling that dog the mini dog anymore. It was really fun. So that was quite fun. And then ultimately, Pete and Ron, Ron's mother, Pete's wife, was the cook at the rice pond for I don't know how many years, 25 years. We still call it Lizzie's Kitchen. There's still tremendous stories about her taking people out of that kitchen with a wooden spoon when they tried to help her. So the Bonati family and the rice pond are intertwined. And by the way, this picture right here, thanks to Randy, is way back 1910 at the rice pond.
Oh, really?
This area, we still have, general area, we still have a tent today, which is going up tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, where we all meet before we go out and come back to it. It's a famous place where truer stories were never told, as you can imagine. But it's right there. And thanks to Randy, who I didn't know this existed, is now hanging in our clubhouse as well. But without the likes of the Bonatis and Tom and Randy and John, your leadership here at the museum, we can do something with this, because I think this is really special. And there are only a couple of these places that do this, and we can take them on. And I compliment you, and I remember, Sal, you probably will forget this, but when I came back from Tokyo in 1994, the very first community activity endeavor I did was join the Lakeview Museum Board. And John was about 7 at the time with a Chris flute and the whole thing. It was the same story you told. And that was my first involvement in the community at that time. And I met a lot of very nice people, including Merle and others. And that's led to some lifelong friendships, of course, and a lot of neat things for Peoria. And at a time when we need to brighten our light here, this is certainly one way to do it. And I hope we get a lot of, recognition, well-deserved, and stand up on our laurels a little bit, because I think this can really help us with the community. And I'll conclude with thanking the family again. And Ron was one of my all-time heroes, as so many of us young guys at CAP in those days. And Joshua, I told you a minute ago, he was so very proud of you and what you were doing. He always talked about that. And I don't know if you were the engineer and he wasn't, or what it was, but he really respected that. He admired that greatly. So you should feel good about that, and of course, everything you've done here with us. And Heather, we welcome you from a long way away. So thank you, and thank you, John. Thank you all at the museum as well.
Thank you, Doug. Doug talked about Rice Pond, pointed this great photograph out. I will tell you that one of the first things we're going to do, Diane and Doug, and I know you spend a lot of time at Rice Pond, we're going to take on a project with regard to the clubs up and down the river, and we're going to start with Ron's club and your club, Rice Pond. So stay tuned for that, but Zach's got some big plans into the future. So I want to point out here these duck calls, and several of them are from the permanent collection of the Peoria Riverfront Museum, but all the rest are the collection of Ron Bonati, now Christine's, on loan. And those who received, all of you received the invitation, you saw the one right in the middle with the RB initials carved on it. Those are Charles Purdue from Henry, Illinois, one of the greatest carvers in history, made those calls. Right beneath it, we thought we'd have some ducks swimming, because after all, the calls have to bring somebody in. So these are Tom Figge's miniatures. And we had a little boy in here earlier today. He was the first, he didn't know it, he was the first person to see that he was with his grandparents. And he came in and he said, "Do those attract the birds?" I said, no, these are decorative, Tom, but I thought it was an observant question. A quick story about Ron Bonati that I'm not sure many of you know, but Doug will know this. I mentioned our Every Student Initiative earlier today. The Every Student Initiative, when I first came here 3.5 years ago, espouses to bring every K through 8th grader from every school, we started with the Peoria Public Schools and we're growing, through the museum, or to give them a museum experience every year. And we think we're going to grow a much more confident, learning, interested constituency by aligning this to curriculum. And the Barton Family Foundation, named for the late Glenn Barton, and former colleague of Doug's, of course, at Caterpillar, was the funder for that incredible initiative. Polly Barton could not be with us tonight, but she wanted me to share a story that some of you know, but most do not. She writes, "This is how it happened. We were on the cat plane. Glenn was eating peanut butter crackers and started choking. He actually rolled on the floor and could not breathe. The steward tried the Heimlich method and it didn't work. Ron Bonati got out of his seat and started working on Glenn, and that worked. I've always been so thankful to Ron, and so was Glenn." True story. I knew Doug knew all about it. Ron Bonati, who had the shoulders, could do what that steward could not do and dislodge that. And Polly, I said, "Well, then what happened?" "Well, everybody sat back down and went on with the thing." But it was that close. Had Ron not done what he did. So isn't that an amazing story? So Doug, thank you again for your remarks tonight. At this time, we want to get to the main event, and that will involve Christine, and if you would both join as well, Josh and help us. Come up here, and we're gonna see what is behind this black cloak. Maybe you can stand on this side, and Josh, here you come on this side. So, with the action that the family is about to take, the Peoria Riverfront Museum hereby dedicates the Ronald P. Bonati Fund, which will be permanently recognized in this gallery for many, many generations to come. please unveil the recognition. Yeah, just nice and easy. Zach promised me that it would work. There we go. There we go. Thank you. Christine, would you please say a few words?
Josh, you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Josh, you're welcome.
Well, this is the best way I could ever honor my husband. He loved duck hunting. He collected decoys. At one time, he owned 95 decoys, which I dusted them all. So after he passed, I said, I need to sell these because it's his passion, not mine. But he was so connected to the rice pond, his mom cooking up there, you've heard these stories, and it was just his thing that he loved to do. So this is the best way I could honor him, and I'm so happy. You all did such a great job. This is just wonderful. And these are Josh's collections, not mine. So I asked Josh if we could loan these, and he said, okay. So I'm thankful, Josh, you decided to keep those. Because I didn't, it was one of those, okay, what do we do with these? But he said, I want to keep them. So that's why they're here, because Josh wanted to keep them. So thank you very much for all of you for coming. And it's been a wonderful evening, and just, I'm so blessed by this, and you all that have done such a great job. And I'm blessed by Joshua and his lovely wife coming home for this, because they live in Brooklyn, New York. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
You want to say anything? No? You want to say anything? That's enough?
Yeah, sure.
You want to say something?
Real quick, sorry.
Let's hear it for Josh.
Thanks very much for doing this. This is a fantastic exhibition. I'm very happy that my dad's, these duck calls are here. I don't know if it was any particular torment to my dad when I was growing up, but I became vegetarian really early on. So I went on a few hunts before I kind of turned, and then I thought it's not really appropriate for me to be shooting ducks if I'm not going to eat them, which is what these guys did. They would go out and they would hunt, they would come back, and then skin them and eat them, and that's the real deal. That's the real kind of hunting, and for that it has my respect, even though I don't eat meat. And of course, you've heard the stories about my grandmother, who, if you haven't seen her, is kind of very, kind of round woman with a giant black beehive hairdo, in the kitchen, chasing people away. It's fantastic. I mean, I miss these people every day of my life. And while I'm not a collector, or my mom and I are not collectors of decoys ourselves, we have a very deep respect. Maybe my dad collecting these was really the start of my respect for a lot of the artisanal craftsmen and woodworkers. So I have a lot to be thankful for that. And it is real culture, and it deserves to be preserved. So I'm very happy that this exists. I think it's a great thing. And it's a very unique thing for our area. So this is the best it could really be for the display of these decoys. So I'm really, really grateful for all your work and all your outreach, especially. And it seems like the right guys, the specialists, are involved. So this is as good of a representation of this culture as I think we can really put together, and I think everyone involved should be really proud. Mm-hmm. So thanks.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Well, there's one more thing to do. We have a little gift for you, but I want to acknowledge before we bring that forward that your special guest here tonight, some of your dearest friends, are with us, and the Petersons, who are usually with us on the 4th of July, because Helene is born on the 4th of July. So she's usually out on the plaza watching those fireworks go off. But the Petersons are here. The Fleegies are here, Tom and Cheryl Fleegy, who are frequently complimented on their great collection of decoys, Tom Figgy. But we're glad to have the Fleegies with us tonight. And I want to mention an old family friend of Christine's, and that's Mary Finch. And Mary is back from 20 years with the San Francisco Opera, where she was part of one of only 3 opera companies in the country with a professional full-time chorus. and is a really superstar, and she's back now working at Eureka College. So glad to have Mary Finch back with us. And anybody else, family, friends, or guests to mention? Well, anybody who considers yourself a friend of Christine's, I introduce you. And one last introduction, because it is his first visit to the Peoria Riverfront Museum, and we hope he comes back often. Here from the Boston area is Tom's nephew, Mike Figge. And Tom, thank you for coming in. Mike, thank you for coming in tonight. How was your first visit?
Fabulous.
Good. Well, we try to do it up for new guests, so we thought this would be good. So at this time, Christine and Josh, we've got a little gift for you. Anne Marie will bring it forward. I've grown these myself, and does this contain the?
Yeah,
So
it's
this
on the
is
front.
filled with flowers, but it is inscribed, the Peoria Riverfront Museum, Christine Bonati Bullwinkle, in grateful recognition for the Ronald P. Bonati Fund, Center for American Decoys, Peoria Riverfront Museum, October 16th.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then something that's easier to travel with on your flight back to Brooklyn is simply a recognition, Joshua Bonati, grateful recognition, Ronald P. Bonati as well. So thank you. Well, that concludes a very special evening in the Oberhelman Galleries with the Center for American Decoys and with the Ronald P. Bonati Fund, a great new addition to this gallery. God bless everybody. Thanks for coming and be safe. Enjoy it tonight.